Wonderful.
Okay, let's see who accepts it. Twitch has accepted the stream. YouTube has accepted the stream. Facebook has accepted the stream. When the timer says on the air, you are on the air, okay?
Okay. Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at Think Twice Radio in the home of the future, also the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thanks, Richard. And we also thank our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, 91.3 FM. We appreciate you at Buff State, WBNY. And when I think of appreciation, I think of our indigenous friends and people who've been enslaved and brought to this country who, despite all the hardships, all the violence and oppression, still have such a habit of gratitude and caring and appreciation for the earth and for the people on the planet. So I think of the Haudenosaunee, which we're on Seneca land now, or Onondaga land, and how they start off everything with the Gnoño, where they appreciate Mother Earth and everything she's given us for a good life in this creation, and all of the wonderful plants and animals of every kind, and all the features of our beautiful earth, and all the things in the skies and the sky world, the brother sun and grandmother moon and all the stars, and the creator and the love that animates it all. And so then they would say Nyahweh, and the people would say Nyo. So Nyahweh.
Yo.
Thank you. Thank you. And Ashe, Ashe. And all of may Ashe and Amen, Amen, Amen. There's so much that we do have to be thankful for, but we also have a lot of things that we're quite concerned about and working to get through some challenging times. So that is our topic of the show today, is what can we do in these challenging times? So I'm very thrilled to have our guests, two really stalwart activists, organizers, just wonderful friends and allies, partners. So we have India Walton here. Hi, India.
Hi.
And India, of course, well known for lots of things that you've done, but I can say now one of the many things you're focused on is being the senior strategist at RootsAction, our allies at RootsAction. We appreciate so much.
Yes, and I love that I landed at RootsAction. It's very fulfilling work.
I love it too. And Norm Solomon, we couldn't appreciate you more. What a wonderful man he is. He's been guest of the show, friend of the show, and we did a whole show on his most recent book, War Made Invisible. Mm-hmm. So some of that will come in, but there's so much to do, and thankfully we're doing it together. Mm-hmm. And also we have Leighton Jones here. Hi, Leighton.
Hi.
So glad that you could come. Leighton, you're doing such great work over at Our City Action Buffalo and Our City Buffalo.
Yes.
As communications coordinator, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's lots of wonderful work that's been done and being done at OCAB.
Need to continue to be.
Oh, needs, desperately needed. So that's, I before we start leaping into the thick of it, we like to do this thing on the values. So when we think of what we can do in these challenging times, what do you think of as a value or a couple values that you think are really prominent in this issue? So we'll just go around in the talking circle type format. And so India, and then Leighton.
Yeah, I've been on several radio shows recently, and the number one thing I've just been saying is love.
Yes.
Love on one another.
Yes.
Love on your family. And, I think we've been so reactionary and fighting the fight for so long. Just don't forget that the root and the center of everything that we're fighting for is based and rooted in a deep love and care for one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So wonderfully put. So critical. All our big activists have always been motivated by that love that drives people to
It
help
needs
each other.
to.
Yes, and Leighton.
Yes. I think for now, I want to implore that people need to rest. People need to take time for themselves. Like, we oftentimes want to do so much in the world, but we're not taking care of ourselves, and we can't be wholesome if we're not taking care of ourselves. So I think that's one of the things we need to lead with.
Right.
Yes, it's like important. Our mental
Oh.
health is important. And we can't go forth with saying we're aiding people if we're not aiding ourselves first. So we need to start at home.
Absolutely. You're so right. And it is a struggle. It's very much of a struggle. For the more conscious we are of the struggle, the more we need to remember to balance that, and that taking care of ourselves is part of doing the work. Because if we're not, as you say, if we're not doing that, we can't do it for very long. Right?
Yeah,
So,
burnout is real.
right, right. You're
Never
not kidding.
failed.
And very,
You see, I got my gym clothes on.
Okay.
When I
yeah,
leave
no,
here,
I know you do.
I'm going to Planet Fitness.
That's good. That's good. That was inspiring when you told me that. I thought, ooh, well, maybe when I go home, I can do a little yoga or something.
What about you, Vicky? What
So-
values are you bringing to the circle?
So I'm going to bring now. Actually, I truth and love is usually what I can't resist, and it's every time it gets pretty monotonous. So I'm just going to So love, I love when Reverend Dr. King, John Washington is the one who showed me. I first saw this quote from John Washington of Reverend Dr. King saying, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word." And it's so true, and it's so important. And so actually I was just speaking with a pastor today where we were talking about the truth aspect. So the love, unconditional love, of course we need it, and that is the driving factor, but truth is in there too. So one of the things we talked about that's so important about what's going on in these challenging times is knowing what's going on. So if you're listening to certain news that is non-news, or that is even laced with lie upon lie upon lie, or you just don't know what's going on, then you won't know. You can't decide what to do because you don't even really know what's going on. So the truth of what's happening, which is not a simple thing, but sometimes it is quite simple. And so truth is really vital. Gandhi talked about satyagraha, truth seeking. That was the primary thing to him. And I feel like truth is love. So the truth, when people are trying to, negotiate something, right? If they're doing it lovingly and truthfully, then it's going to come to a good solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can can the show now. I think we've told everybody everything they need to know. No. There's lots to know. But anyway, so it's very beautiful to hear both of you what you had to say. And both of those are so important. So if we start a little bit with, India, we were talking about how we want to gear this show. And there's lots of things to talk about. But so when we settled on this for a topic, what we can do in these challenging times, I want you to just lead off with your first reaction of what you said.
Yeah, well, I said we should title this show Lots of Little Fires Everywhere. Little
Yes.
Fires Everywhere. Right?
We almost did. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that a lot of people don't know what to do. And, it's sort of like I can remember my freshman year in college having so many assignments that I did none. And I think that it's easy to just feel paralyzed because there's so much going on, right? So much in the news cycle. And I mean, even a part of it, I believe, is complicated because we're also in Buffalo, right? And we have so many local issues going on and national issues going on and war and crises internationally. It's difficult to know what crises to focus on, which is most important. How do we prioritize? Where do we put our energy? So, I think that this conversation is timely, and I hope that it will be helpful for folks to know how and when to plug in, and we can share some helpful resources and some local action so folks can find a way to harness some of that frustration, some of that energy, and also some of that love.
Well, and one of the things I want to bring out that you said, you talked about our personal sphere of influence, our personal contacts, the people in our family, our friends, our neighbors, the people we talk with every day. Do we deal with, actually, when I was doing some recent electoral work recently that made me amazed at how many people did not know the political opinions of their family members, who they were going to vote for. They had no idea. So, I was really amazed. So I think that part of it too, really talking with people and back to, finding the truth, sharing truth, and listening to each other to hear, what are you hearing, what is right about that, or wrong, So
I often preface a lot of what I say, especially online, with some argue with your mama, right? It's something that we say, but there's a meaning to that, right?
Right.
And people were saying, well, why weren't you out here? And when you say rest, Leighton, right? 98% of us made the right decision. So when you're wondering why black people are not out fighting against Trump and why all of this nonsense that's happening, why we're not responding, you don't have to organize black people against Donald Trump.
Right.
They didn't vote for him.
Right.
No.
Right.
Argue with your mama. Talk to your uncle at Thanksgiving.
Right.
Talk to your cousin. Speak to the people. Stop trying to organize outside of your community and organize what other people are doing before you've organized in your own sphere of influence.
Right.
Be brave enough to talk to the people that you have to face every day and check them in their nonsense.
Right. Absolutely. And also in there, I'm going to say, there's full, completely off the rails, but then there's that sort of slide into normalizing that also happens. That's a really scary thing too, because anyway, so I think, you're right on about that. Leighton, what do you think about that?
I honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. People don't know how to talk to people at home.
Right.
And it starts by you talking at home. That's where you find your voice. So if you're unable to use your voice with the people you should be most comfortable with, how do you then come outside and say, you should do this thing? You don't get to tell me what to do because you didn't even do the work at home.
Right.
And this is not an indictment on white people, right? This is an indictment on all of us. Because let me tell you about how I have conversations with my siblings and my family about homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia. We all have work to do out here.
Oh, we all have our biases. There is no one who doesn't have some biases. I mean, we all do. And also our biases go deep. So they can be very, very well disguised or very undercurrent, things that we don't even realize that, I'm going to say as a white person, I mean, I've seen that. I know it. I know it from myself, my own mistakes, my own biases. I have them. We all have them. And we
True. But what I would love for people to do is to actually stay informed on what is happening. And if you can't say, I can understand it being that, nationally, there's a lot going on throughout the United States, right? And so sometimes you can feel paralyzed to say, what do you do on that level of power, right? And sometimes there's nothing you can do in that department, right? But there is always something that you can do.
Right.
And so when you think about the work that is happening locally, you have to connect with organizations that are working to change the powers at be, because it starts here.
Right.
Similar to how we say it starts from home, within your house, it starts from within your locality, within your city. That's where you have a bigger voice. That's where you can talk to the politicians that live close to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That are having real impacts on your life on a day-to-day. So I think that is where you start. You
That-
start here where you can make the most noise, and from this place, you build character enough and you have enough knowledge to then say, okay, now maybe I can go statewide, maybe I can go nationally, right? But we have to start somewhere, and I think it definitely needs to start here, especially in the city of Buffalo where we haven't had a new mayor in the past 20 years. It's happening this year. So
Right.
when I say start locally, start with the mayor if you can.
Right, right. You are so right. And you're making me think of the, think globally, act locally. I love that. It's so important because, all the global things do have local impacts. And, we are our human family's keeper and our, the creation. Then there's the creation. But we're here now. We're here in this space, in this city, in this, Western New York, wherever we are, back to, act locally. So
Yes.
you're so right. You're so right. And that's part of the same thing. It makes me think of, why I don't get into political arguments on Facebook or
Instagram
or
or-
Instagram or
yeah.
any of that. I mean, I'm on them at times, but I'm just I'll announce things or maybe show something that I went to, But as far as like the back and forth that goes on in there with people that you don't know in probably a very disrespectful environment, it's like, where is that going to help anything? Are there people changing their mind because of discussions? Oh, no, they're not. They're not. So back to the point of the local, the personal, the actual people that you see and meet, and the things that affect us here.
Yeah.
So, and there are so many things that are affecting us, and I'm going to say OCAB. Well, just the other day when I was trying to figure out what was going on with City Council about something, you were the one I called because I knew you'd know. I knew you would know, and you did.
Yes.
So, so I think people should really first. Now, it's OCAB is there's our City Action Buffalo
Yes.
is a 501c4.
Yes,
and
that's correct.
and our City Buffalo
Is
is
a
a 501c3.
501c3.
That's yeah. So people can check that out. I know you have lots going on in different campaigns, which brings us into swinging a little bit into. We're just talking about campaigns. So I want to talk a little bit about on a more. So there's the individual and very personal things, and then there's the community-wide things. And the community-wide things are really related to the next where I want to go, about nonviolent direct action, collective action. Collective action like there's a Buy Nothing Day coming up. Collective action like any collective
February
action.
28th.
Yeah, February 28th. Thank you. Yes, we need to mention that. So so let us talk about nonviolent direct action, and sort of either some of the things you think about it, some of the times that you've been involved in it, or some of the ones that are going on right now. So, India.
I mean, I've been involved in so many nonviolent direct actions that I can't recall. One of the most significant ones that I can think about was actually we stormed the Heritage Foundation, who was actually the organization that's responsible for Project 2025, and this was
Really?
this was pre. Was it who? Was it during the first Trump? I don't remember. I think it might have been during
The first
during the
Trump,
first
yeah.
Trump administration. And we went and sat in when they were trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act the first
okay.
time. So
Yeah, they've done so much damage.
yeah, that was interesting and necessary. I didn't get arrested, so that was
Good.
it was an experience. Yeah, I mean, I think that it is an effective tactic, but I think that what a lot of people get confused about is the difference between a strategy, a tactic,
And action.
and a goal.
Yeah.
Right? Like the action is a tactic, right? But that's not the goal. right? Like,
Right.
you don't do the protest or the action and then just walk away and like, now I came
No,
out
right. No,
for this
no.
one day
No.
and now I just go back to brunch, right?
I
Like,
won.
a
Right.
campaign should be like time bound with goals,
Right.
and you escalate, and there's a overall strategy that gets you to something tangible at the end. And that's the reason why, like, there are people who are organizers, right? So there was recently an action that I think you attended, and you're like, well, where's the organizer? Who do I talk to? And there's like no one. So like, there's all these people out there who are looking to be activated, and there's no one collecting information. You don't
Right.
know who attended.
Right.
There's people who showed up in the freezing cold, and they're like, okay, well, what do I do now? Right? So like, there's just something to be said about a right way to do collective action, and not a wrong way, but a way that can be improved on.
Well, I think we can always improve, and that's what we learn to do. And I think part of it is about the mass. So collective action, nonviolent direct action can be very focused on, you know, an action with a fairly small group of people. I think of like the Hancock 38, which is the one time that I got arrested where I purposely put myself in the position to be arrested. But also direct action can be really mass direct action. So there's a Force More Powerful is a movie that I just adore, and it's about nonviolent direct action. That was those collective large actions that really changed things. That in India got the British out when Gandhi used nonviolent collective direct action. In, you know, ending apartheid in South Africa, although I guess there's still problems at times, but, you know, it's not that simple. Easier said than done. And civil rights movement, the same thing, right? But the one I like to mention especially is the Danish people. So what the Danish people did when the Nazis took over and they were made the Jewish people start wearing the Star of David in Denmark, the rest of the Danes started wearing a Star of David. So they all, now the organizing, I was just talking about that, the organizing that took for everybody to know, and how did you get these? How did you make them look the same? How did, you know, and where did they get, how were they, but that was organized by people for a mass movement. So I see that we have some comments here. Binghamton just became the latest New York City to pass the good cause eviction protections into law for renters. How do you keep the local progressive organizations motivated when the current Buffalo Common Council and mayor would never even come close to mentioning it, let alone adopting that same legislation for Buffalo? So first of all, I think this is the thing about, so we can take a little short circuit into that, and then we'll continue on with what we were just saying. But I want to ask you, I think you would have an opinion on that, right?
On good cause
Leighton?
eviction?
Well, on good cause eviction, but more so, I think the question wasn't what do we think about good cause eviction,
Yeah,
because I think we're probably all in favor here. I know I am, right?
Yes.
But the
ending piece.
What about our common council? So talk about the power structure in Buffalo, please.
Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, the only way to get them talking about something or about anything is to keep talking about it, right? Like, we have to be up in their faces. We have to actually organize. Like, similar to what India was just talking about, the real way in which we can allow our elected officials, our public servants, to actually serve the public is to tell them what to do. And
Right.
oftentimes they so need advice, but they have a hard time asking for it. So when we have opportunities like public hearings, when we have opportunities like committee meetings that they will be at, we bombard them with this information that they need to do. This is not a want. This is not an ask. This is a necessity. And the only way that we will go forward in certain meetings is that this is all we're going to talk about. So when the topic is, so one tactic that I think would be really cool that I have seen used before, that we kind of mantraed when we did our redistricting campaign through our City Action Buffalo, right?
Right. I was in that campaign.
Yes. So throughout that, we often went to common council meetings that they were having, and we would shut meetings down by one, saying how we felt, or speaking about the issue at hand. So this issue at hand is good cause eviction, right? And we want them to be talking about it, and we want them to adopt it for the city. One of the ways that we can do that is we can consistently show up and tell them that this is what we're talking about, and we change the trajectory of these meetings. And do they have a choice then to talk about it, or is it a fact? Is it a need? Is it something that they will now have to talk about because we won't stop bombarding them with it? You know.
So
let me just
chime in.
Let me just say something, okay? So the mayor of Buffalo and the Buffalo Common Council will tell you that good cause eviction is a New York City thing. It's a big city problem. Ithaca has it. Newburgh has it, Rochester has it, Binghamton has it. At this point, Buffalo is pretty much the only city that does not have it, and we do not have it because there is no political will. And I'm not gonna make it about me, but you had a person running for mayor that said that we were gonna pass good cause eviction. The last common council race, you had a slate of women running for mayor who said that we were going to pass good cause eviction. Catherine Franco, India Walton, and
running
Eve
for
Shippens,
common council.
and you didn't vote for us. So if we can talk about it all day, we can shut down the common council all day. If people keep voting in the same people that the developers and the landlords own, then nothing is going to ever change. That's the answer.
So I do want to just get to two other, for which those are very good points, both of them. Just want to get to two other comments that we have. One being LaDeja Williams, former board. Yeah, hi LaDeja, we miss you. She says, I thought we did follow the good cause here. It definitely has been added to applications within recent months. So maybe there's been some improvements, and that would be from the activism that has been happening around it, because it is just a terrible problem going on. The other thing, Matthew Austin says organizing is the only way to spur the Common Council into action. I'm hoping we can organize for the upcoming budget cycle in April, May. And it's just what you were saying, and I know we'll be working on that. From the original RFK was that the only way to change policy is by changing the people currently making them, which is, hey, your point that you just made. So that
I like
India
how
made.
how he specified
Okay.
the
So that's
original RFK.
Yeah, right. No, you have to specify at this point. But anyway, so I think that when we say nonviolent direct action, there's a lot of things that can mean, and it can be over a very broad swath and even countrywide. This Buy Nothing Day that's going to happen. Why don't you just give us the details on that? So it's the 28th, and it's just buy nothing all day long.
Yes. So what you can do, what you can do is buy things the day before, buy things a week before.
Right.
I mean, it's not a ask. It's not a huge ask, right? It's a simple ask, and it's
easy.
really to show that we have the power. At the end of the day, the power is in the people's hands, and that's one of the things that we need to hone into as residents, as citizens of this country. It's important to take ownership of that. These developers or organizations CEOs feel that we need them, and that is not the case.
Right.
It's actually the other way around.
Well,
and so if you don't serve the people that are buying from you, we'll go elsewhere, or we will just not buy anything from you. Because there are local businesses.
This is the same as when I was just talking about nonviolent direct action. So there's all kinds. It makes me think of, actually I meant it, Gene Sharp. I've been trying to remember his name lately. Eugene Sharp was the father of, of course there's Gandhi, there's Reverend Dr. King, there's lots of people who practice nonviolent direct action. But Gene Sharp cataloged 100 different ways of doing. So boycotting is one of them. Sit-in is one of them. Taking over a meeting. There's thing after thing. There's writing letters. There's all kinds of things, and there's everything from being in the street to, so there's all kinds of things to do. I really want to recommend to people this wonderful movie that is actually, we're going to do a showing of it at Burning Books. They have already promised me, but it's our a force more powerful, and you can see it yourself too. It's freely available. If you Google it, they have it all broken down and it's India, South Africa, the U.S. and the Civil Rights Movement, and Poland, Denmark, and Chile. So it talks about all those different cases. But so, and we can find cases in our own experience or background. We're back to when is a campaign successful? And as you said, that there's different pieces to it. One of the things I think we want to talk about at least two things. Now, right now, first of all, we are doing this, we're taping this today on the 19th of February. On the 23rd, we will have had, for those of you who are listening on the radio, we will have had our Peace Parade. If you want to tell a little bit about that and why and how, please.
So RootsAction and the Western New York Peace Center are collaborating to do a peace parade. So the World Beyond War is doing a worldwide day to close military bases. And I don't know whether folks are aware, but there are 2 Congress people who've proposed converting the Niagara Falls Air Force Base into an ICE detention center. So we thought that since it's the World Day to close bases, we should use our voices to not only demand that the Niagara Falls Air Force Base be closed, but it also should not be used as a detention center for ICE. So we're going to gather some folks at UB South on Sunday, February 23rd at 2:30 p.m. At 2 p.m.
Right.
And at 2:30, we're going to head on up to Niagara Falls Air Force Base to bring awareness to this egregious request by Congresspersons Langworthy and Tenney.
Yeah. And actually, and one of the things about that, that turning that into a deportation center, also because it's an airfield, and they can keep people in detention, they can ship them off. That's their whole plan. And I want to mention, for those who don't know, that we have about 900 different military bases. People say, well, don't you think we need some military bases? Well, we do, but if you look at the numbers of military bases that Russia or China or any other country have, it is so dwarfed. They don't even have, they have a tiny fraction of what we have. 900 military bases is ridiculous. It's polluting, and it's wasting our money that we need for other things. The things that I never hear, we can't afford the police, we can't afford the military. No, those things never we can't afford to have 900 military bases. That does not get discussed. No. Only we pay everything for those and for the carceral system in this country and the sheriff and everything else. And then when it comes to food for people,
lunch for
keeping
kids,
people warm, keeping people from a hypothermia or frostbite, we can't afford it.
Right.
Food, we can't afford it. School, like you said, school lunches, the
Department of Education.
Right. The department, the massive amount of destruction that has just taken place in the last 3 weeks is just mind-boggling. And it's the same steps of vengeance on people, irrational firing, giving, the corporate, it's fascism. It's definitely fascism. And it's the very same steps that were taken by Hitler when he took over.
It's unfortunate and it's scary.
But so here's something people can do. So if you come join us, we have a bus, we have a small bus. So you can ride up there, and we'll decorate it to get our message across. Some people will get out, and if we have the media there, we'll talk with them, and if we don't, we'll be our own media. But no one has to get out the bus. The bus might either park if it can or drive back and forth if it can't, because that's a little bit up in the air. But it will be perfectly safe. There's not going to be people getting arrested because
No.
we know there's a certain point beyond which they've said, don't go past this point, and we won't go past that point.
And you'll get a preview of my one-woman stand-up comedy show on the way up. I'll tell jokes.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. We have a stand-up comedian on the way up. Very good. I'm looking forward to
David
that.
said that I mentioned a general strike on social media the other day. Would I be interested in leading a general strike on the city level? I would be interested in talking about how we might strategize around that, but I'm really not interested in leading much of anything these days. I'm kind of tired. Did I tell you I have a granddaughter, Mr. Johnson? I have a grandchild. I'm doing other things these days.
Right.
But I would definitely be interested in talking about strategy.
Well, strategy, and actually that's really what we're talking about now, is strategy. So some of the collective actions can be small, and some of them hopefully can be big as we build our network. So that brings me to the other thing I wanted us to talk about. Another thing that we're planning is we're working together with labor groups, with immigrants and refugees. All kinds of groups are getting together and working on something that we're calling
Good neighbors?
Good Neighbors. It might be Good Neighbors Action or Good Neighbors Movement, or it might be many.
We don't need to make the name right now.
Yeah, and actually that's something we're working on tomorrow, so we might have a name by the time this airs, but it's going to be something on April 5th. So and actually even the time is still being discussed, and the map and everything else that we're going to do. But it's going to be a large gathering, sort of. I compare it to the previous women's marches that we had. So, and the Western New York Peace Center is part of planning. I'm going to say WNCOSH is doing the heavy lifting, in terms of organizing, filling out the permit forms, and there will be a permit and all of that. And if there isn't a permit, then there's other solutions that we can have. But in the meanwhile, so far the determination is that we are going for a permit, and we'll have a march and a rally. And also on that date, the Western New York Peace Center's Latin American Solidarity Committee will have an event at Montante from 2 to 4. That's going to be about immigrants and refugees. The refugee settlement agencies will be there. We very much hope that that someone will manage to come from Justice for Migrant Families, which is a wonderful group.
It is.
Yeah, and actually I've just started volunteering for them. And
Is there an event at Canisius on Monday?
Oh, this coming Monday?
Yes.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And it's going to be about Bill Jungles, who is a cinematographer and longtime, I would almost call him a semi-resident in Chiapas. He's spent a tremendous amount of time and done movies about Chiapas, and he's going to talk about the life there, the people there, the activism there, the struggles there. So that's this coming Monday. So for those of you who are listening, so it's on the 27th, the 27th.
Monday's going to be
Let me
the
just
20th.
see. We can do this quickly. Okay. It's going to be on the 24th. Yeah, 24th. So I was wrong. I should have known that because our event is on the 23rd.
Yes.
Right. Of course. My brain. This is why I'm not in charge anymore. Okay. The 24th. Monday the 24th at 7 o'clock at the Science Hall of Canisius University. Everyone is welcome. It's a coffee house, so there is coffee and tea and some light refreshments. So people are welcome to come to that. And they're the organizers of the resettlement agencies and Jericho Road and
Jewish Family Services, International Institutes.
yeah. Yep, they'll all be there on that on the 5th from 2 to 4 on April 5th from 2 to 4. So that's the same day, and so then this other gathering will be either before it or after it, and we're just trying to figure that out. That's one of the things we'll figure out tomorrow.
While you're promoting, I would love to
Yes.
promote.
Please.
Our city, Buffalo, is doing a walk-in name change and document change clinic for specifically the trans community that's under
Oh,
attack.
Yes.
And so that's happening March 8th from 10 a.m. to, I believe, 1 p.m. It's happening at the Trinity Episcopal Church on Delaware Avenue. And
371.
yes, 371 Delaware
yeah.
Avenue downtown.
Wonderful.
And I really would implore that people, if you can't make it, it's definitely going to be one of those events that is super heartwarming because the trans community is just going through so much in this moment,
Right.
Under severe attack from every administration
Right.
of power
Oh.
in the U.S. And so they're trying to take that T out of LGBT, and there is no LGBTQ. There's no pride flag without the trans community.
Right. Now, isn't there also something from the trans community on that weekend of I want to say the end of March, that last weekend in March? Do you know about that? Or I think on the 29th or 30th or 31st. Just people can keep their eyes open for that because I heard some rumblings and I don't have the specific information. But I think it's, it might be We Exist is organizing. I don't know who's organizing it, but it's for the trans or by the trans community.
There is a specific question about our city. Is
What?
our city action in endorsing a candidate in 2025?
The hope is that the endorsement committee from Our City Action Buffalo will endorse. I cannot say officially as of right now. Right now, we're in the process of endorsing, and so what has happened is that we've made a survey for each candidate that has applied, and we're sending out the survey. Once the surveys has been responded to, we will have interviews, and members are welcome to join the interviews because they will be either in
good.
person or panel, and so you can hear what these candidates have to say and what they have to offer as suggestions and implementations that they want to invest in within the city. But as of right now, I cannot say such because that is not a decision that's made by me. It's made by members. And
Right.
so we are
Right.
waiting for them to make that decision once the interviews are done.
And so now you said, what should people do if they want to get involved in that process? Which, by the way, I want to say, Western New York Peace Center is 501c3. That we don't have any opinions to be shared on this topic. But since you're just telling, you can tell people how they can, if they want to get involved, they can go to your website and what's their date that they should be doing this before?
I would say if you start before April, that's most likely before we
Okay.
put out
There's
our
still some
endorsements.
time.
Yes.
Right.
And the next month we will be doing our March Madness. So I believe March 20th, OCAB will be doing our orientation. We will do an orientation every quarter to get more people involved, and all our committees, which we have a policy and advocacy committee, a communications committee, an organizing and power building committee. All of those committees will be, they are already up and running, but we will just be encouraging more members to join these committees
Right.
as they grow.
Sure.
And
March
so,
Madness. Sounds fun.
It
yes,
sounds good.
it is. I'm
March
really
Madness.
excited.
So it means a really membership drive kind
Yes.
of thing. Right, for March Madness. Yes. Yeah, that very important. And back to people getting involved in their local community. So that's one of the, when we talk about democracy, that when we say, democracy is not a spectator sport, people feel like voting, people get so disgusted that they think even voting isn't that important, or it's already, well, by the time the voting is done, there's already been so many decisions made that it's true that you don't have a lot of leeway. It's still necessary but not sufficient, right? So we need to vote, but we also need to get involved way before that and all throughout the process. So like we were saying about getting people to either know what's going on, acknowledge what's going on, and do what's needed to be done for the benefit of the people.
I mean, it
And the
baffled
planet.
me how many people did not vote in the general election for the United States president.
Right.
And imagine that number brought down. So there's 200 and how many people living in the city of Buffalo? And how many people vote for the mayor the last time around? So thinking about it's a small percentage, 25%
even
of the
less than
people.
that.
Exactly.
It's
That's
crazy.
nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's truly
Right.
unacceptable. Like your
Yes.
vote, we hold power, and the
Right.
power is within our voices, right? And so a lot of times when we go into these movements and vote at a voting booth, it feels empowering because you are doing something empowering. And
Right.
you're using your voice in the capacities that you can. And by not doing so, you're taking away your voice and you're diminishing the vote and power that you hold. And
Right.
so in this time and age, we can see the direct impacts of not using our voices.
Right.
So if we want to have the same type of administration that we've had for the past 20 years in the city of Buffalo, so be it. But where I stand and where I see people standing is not on that end. People want change, and the only way to make change is to make it by doing an action.
Right.
And the action that you can do to make change this year is vote for mayor.
Right.
Not only to vote, but to have an informed vote, right?
Oh, right. Absolutely.
And go get the information yourself. Go by these people's campaign office, right? Like, even
Right.
if you don't get to have one-on-one time with the candidate themselves, go find out who they hang around. What are
Right.
their volunteers like? When you go into that campaign HQ, are you welcomed with a warm and fuzzy person, or is it a cold person? You know, go just give them a call. Like, if the person has been your representative for the last 5 years and you've been calling down there and ain't nobody called you back about a minor issue, what makes you think it's going to be any different when they're
Right.
in a higher
Right.
position? Like, all these things should be taken into consideration. And I think that one of the things you raised, Leighton, about like why people didn't turn out for the general election is you can't really win an election on vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like, people want to hear what you are going to do.
Yes.
Bread and butter, kitchen table issues. How am I going to feed my family? I don't care how many Beyoncés you bring out on stage.
Right.
True that.
Right.
Tell me how I'm going to feed my children.
Right.
That's what people want to hear. And in Buffalo, people want to hear, how are we going to fix this budget?
How are we going to fix these potholes?
How are we going to fix these potholes? Why can't you get salt?
Right. Right.
People want the answers to these questions.
Right.
And so, even to backtrack all of that point too, I think one of the great things that I think working for our city Action Buffalo has done is that it's made me like a great resource, and not just me, but the organization as it is. So last year we released a report called "Who Rules Buffalo."
Oh, yes, that was
And
wonderful.
so, with that being said, that differentiated what the local power structure looks like, who is on the local power structure, how much money they have, where they live,
Right.
all of the
Right.
things, right? All in one document. And so what you can do to empower yourself, if you don't want to go to these, if you don't want to call them, if you don't want to hear from them, that's on you, because like you should want to, because they will be holding power. But what you can do to see what type of person they are, or who is voting for them, or who is supporting them, is you can look at the report. And then they just released, or they had to release their finances for who contributed or who is contributing to their campaign.
Right.
What you can do is compare the names that we put developers, people who have power, right?
Right.
So who is on that list that is on the report, you can show what they will mantra. Who are their supporters? What their supporters want will be considered. And
Right.
so that is one of the ways you can do your own investigation, because baby, the information is now here and it's
and-
clear.
And you put it out there. I want to direct people to OCAB's website, where that you can read that report.
You can
And
download it. It's for your use.
Download it. Take your time with it. It is very helpful. And there have been report after report actually that tell us what's going on, so that there's no reason that people shouldn't know. So there's the work of voting and the work of an informed vote, and then back to there's the work of doing the research to know what's going on, period, in our locality, in the locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally.
And
Go ahead.
also holding people accountable.
Yes, that's the
like
other-
we have
yes.
this upside down sort of government where they seem to think that we work for them. It's like, no,
Right.
You are a servant of the people. Like and I think that we have to change the perception of who these people are. Like, they are no better than us. They are supposed to be our next door neighbors and representatives of the people, and we need to treat them as such.
Right. And we need to really support each other and inform each other and share our information.
Yeah.
Share the
Absolutely.
resources, share the information, and build the network. So that's another thing. I was just having a conversation today about how do we get our information, where do we get our information, and then how do we share it. So back to collective action, people have to know that what is the plan, what is a plan, or no, I want to bring up one word that I integrity, that people should be, that we behave with integrity, that we recognize, so that truth and love includes, actually another former, Cornel West said, that if people had moral integrity and universal solidarity, that's another recipe that would get us exactly where we need to go. And we just do our best. We can do our best to try to emulate those things and to help feed that into our community, into our youth, into our neighbors, into our family, and try to act in that way. And because I keep thinking about my dad and the people in Nazi Germany, what was happening to those people in the 1933, which my dad, that was when he was such an activist that in Munich, as a 15-year-old, he was told he had better leave or they'd be taking care of him because he'd refused to say Heil Hitler when he went up to get his prize in front of the relay, in front of the whole school.
Oh, wow.
And things like that. Yeah, that's my dad. So the people there, though, just imagine they were going through what we're going through now. Some people are in denial, right? Some people weren't paying attention. Some people
Yes.
thought it was great. Some people were joining right up to spy on their neighbors and their families and everything. And some people were fighting it. Some people went into the resistance. Some people had to leave. Some people got killed.
Yeah.
Some people got, tortured. And so that what happened in Nazi Germany, I think we have to remember when we see these nooses going around our neck, we have some things going for us, that those tactics and strategies that will help us to build both share the truth and the love and build that collective action for us to take care of each other.
Yeah.
Because it's really about keeping each other safe. And I keep saying people and the planet. Those two things right now, the fires that we've had, the blizzard that we had, the fires that they had, I should say, the fires that have been had in California and in Canada.
Still we.
And so all of those things, so we need to take care of each other more than ever. So we need our resources for that, not for killing each other, not for nuclear weapons that we can't use, not for grabbing, not for the reverse Robin Hood that is take from the poor and give to the rich, which is the plan now. And also helping people to understand and see what's really going on.
This is true.
So let's talk about, again, other ways that people can get more involved.
What's the website?
Our City Action Buffalo, www.ourcityactionbuffalo. That's the website. It'll
Dot
come up-
.com?
Yes, .com.
.com. And how about RootsAction?
We are www.rootsaction.org.
Right.
Mm.
.org. And I can say Western New York Peace Center is WNYPC.org. It's also part of Peace Action New York State, which is Peace Action NYS, I think is the website there. It'll come right up. And that's part of the National Peace Action. And we also, we have so many great groups locally and nationally. And one of the things we need to do on the Western New York Peace Center is update our list of allies, partners and allies. But there's plenty of people down there who are still on it So I'll just make sure that we need to update it. But there's plenty of people who, and groups that are already on it that are just doing wonderful work. World Beyond Wars, you were mentioning our friend Kathy Kelly is the board chair. Code Pink, God bless
Yes.
Medea Benjamin.
I love Medea Benjamin.
She is
Let me
great.
tell you, I just have to say, I was salty. I have been salty for a while. I will admit.
Okay.
Some
When
of the
the
things
pinch is
I
Yeah.
went through in 2021, you just
Right.
were,
Sure.
but having the support of Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen and RootsAction, being able to meet people like Medea Benjamin
Right.
and having the experiences of being able to go to the DNC, and meet Alan Minsky and hang out with Bernie Sanders and Senator Nina Turner. I mean, just
Wow.
being able to be outside of the dog pile that is Buffalo politics and be around truly progressive people that took me in and encouraged
Welcomed
me
you,
and
yes.
continue to, these folks continue to text me, call me and say don't worry about it, little sister, your day will come.
Right.
And your thought leadership and your brilliance is appreciated, and there is a place for you in this movement, right? And it may not be as mayor of Buffalo. And I hear you, David. I wasn't there to see about the DNC being progressive. I was there to see about what a clown show it was, because I was actually there at the Chicago Teachers Union because we had a day of progressive action and we met with the uncommitted movement and we're being educated on what was going on over in Palestine.
Right.
But anyway,
It's a whole nother topic.
that's
but
a
right,
whole nother
right,
topic.
right.
But what I'm saying is I had a chance to go to Chicago so that I could see both sides of it, so that I could see
Right,
how the
right.
DNC does it and I could see how the progressives do it, right?
Right.
So while we were having a day talking about policy and how we protect workers and labor rights and families and how we implement a Green New Deal, right?
Right.
Down the street and around the corner, they had busloads of police ready to unload on peaceful protesters, and they were having a party on the inside, spending millions of dollars in campaign funds, and they had celebrities on stage and confetti falling from the ceiling. It was
Right.
a spectacle. And I'm rambling, and this is way
and-
off
and-
topic, but it's just, I don't think that people understand, right? Once you get inside and see how the sausage is made,
Right.
right? The reason why people cling on to power so desperately,
They do.
and a lot of it is not Democrat versus Republican, and it's not black versus white. It's rich
Right.
versus poor.
Right, right. And so we need, race, class, gender, privilege versus marginalization. And especially right now where we have the worst income and, first of all, this is not new, but the U.S. has the worst income and asset distribution, and it's getting far worse. But there's so much to talk about here. I just want to encourage people that we have a force more powerful, and it is people power. And eventually, like in Poland, when finally the police refused to arrest people, and so we need the people power. We need it on a small scale. We need it on a big scale. But we have lots of great people doing good work, and it's a spiritual struggle. So I want to say we have run out of time. There's plenty of things we can talk about more, and it's just to be continued every day, because we're working on this every day. And for you at home, we thank you for being part of it. For the both of you coming, I can't thank you enough, and it's so good to be with you. It's back to community, the beloved community. We need to continue building community. And so this is Talking Peace, and together we thank you so much. And together we've been talking peace in truth and love.
It's a wrap.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Thank you, people at home who've been commenting and listening. We wish we were all in one having a big town hall. So that's to be continued, as always. Thanks.
Sorry, I went off.
Oops.